Hello, viewers. Larry Johnson has joined again our show. Larry needs actually no introduction. He is a former CIA analyst, a consultant in global security affairs. But I think he has gained a rock star status last 3 or 4 years with his video content and written content in the Geopolitical show and his own website, sonar21.com. I would recommend everyone who is interested in global security issues, please go and have a read his articles and his content. So, Larry, thank you so much.
Yeah, there's nothing like having a fat old spook spice up your day, right?
Larry, much has been happening for the last couple of weeks. So there is chaos, turbulence in Middle East, Iran, Israel, and the US locking their horns. And as if war in Ukraine and a genocidal war in Palestine is not enough, we are facing or almost about to face a full-blown war between Iran, Israel, and the US. So it looks as if there is a cold ceasefire just recently. So what do you think? Who has gained in this conflict? Do you think Iran has dent the invincibility of Israel, the so-called dominance, military dominance, or do you think Israel has irreparably damaged the Iranian capacity and Iranian regime?
No, Israel's failed. Now, before we delve into the specifics of Iran-Israel, I think we need to take a step back because Pakistan as well has been implicated in all of this. I'm putting quotation marks, the terrorist attack that took place in Kashmir 2 months ago now, that it was presented to the world as if this was a Pakistani-supported backed terrorist group carrying out a terrorist strike on India. And it did result in India and Pakistan exchanging blows. But I firmly believe that Western intelligence was implicated in inspiring, funding, encouraging that attack to take place for the simple reason of trying to create a divide between India and China because of China's relationship with Pakistan. This is, what we're witnessing this year is the desperate attempts of Western colonial empires. Now it's sort of the de facto head is the United States, with the Europeans hanging on like a bunch of leeches, parasites. But the United States trying to maintain its status as this hegemon that controls world finance and has pretended now to have this incredible military power that no other country can resist. But we're watching that myth explode because the Houthis out loud, they forced Donald Trump to retreat. Despite all of Trump's bombast, and if you excuse my language, but it's appropriate here, bullshit, the United States capitulated. They claim, oh yeah, the Houthis capitulated, but it was the United States that said, oh, don't attack our ships anymore, we win, we're leaving. And I think that's, suddenly the world's waking up and going, let's look at this. The United States invaded Iraq in 2003, really failed to conquer it and establish a regime that was totally supportive of the United States. Afghanistan, complete, utter failure after 20 years. And now the Houthis, boom. So within this context, Iran is an important strategic piece on the chessboard. It's not a mere pawn. It's a powerful piece like a rook, a bishop, a castle. The king and queen in this case are Russia and China, and I'll let them fight out, who wants to be the king and who wants to be the queen. So, but they're the two big players now who've come together, are galvanizing the global South. And, the sad fact of the matter is the United States has profited off of stirring up conflicts throughout the global South exploiting countries in the global south. Pakistan in particular has been, one of those players where the United States is, basically treated Pakistan like a prostitute. We give you money if some of your people get very wealthy, and you allow us since 1960, so we're talking 65 years, to operate U-2 spy planes that are flying over the then Soviet Union. So this is all the United States' effort to try to keep control. So now we jump to the Iran-Israel war. Donald Trump could have stopped this. Absolutely had it in his power to stop it. And initially he claimed, hey, I knew everything. I knew when they were going to hit. I knew everything. And yet they're claiming, Trump's claiming that he wants peace. He wants a negotiated settlement. Well, peace talks were supposed to take place in Oman. There were the negotiations between the United States and Iran were supposed to take place on June 15th. But Trump allowed Israel to carry out the Friday the 13th, June 13th strike on Iran. And this had been planned for quite some time. Mossad had been very effective at infiltrating Baluchis, Azeris, Kurds into Iran. And despite claims that Iran is this, authoritarian state, the fact that these kinds of groups can operate so freely and move about and carry out the attacks. The attacks were quite effective in killing top-level Iranian military, intelligence personnel, as well as scientists. This was as clear an act of war as you could have. Now, the lie had been pushed before that, Iran's building a nuclear weapon, even though the U.S. intelligence community firmly rejected that, said it wasn't true. But Trump was ignoring that because he's being fed intelligence from Mossad. So they started, a repeat of what they did in 2002, leading up to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Claimed that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. We got to stop him. So this was, Iran's got a weapon of mass destruction. We got to stop him at any cost. Now, again, it's a big lie. This had nothing to do because, remember, Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's a signatory. Israel is not. Iran allowed the International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors into Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan. Playing by the rules. Israel doesn't allow any outside inspectors into its nuclear sites at Dimona. So here is Iran playing by the rules. Have you ever seen the movie Godfather with Marlon Brando? And if you remember the opening scene is this humble Italian baker pleading with the Godfather to kill these two boys that raped his daughter or beat up his daughter. And as part of that baker's speech, he goes, I've played by the rules. I've tried to be a good American. I trusted the police. And the Godfather is like, why didn't you come to me before? That's Iran. Iran is that silly baker. It thought it could play by if we just play by the international rules, if we just agree to kiss the West's ass, they'll leave us alone. They'll be nice to us. And that's why Iran was offered a defense pact by Russia and turned, no. We still want to be able to talk to these Westerners, so we don't want to have that get in the way. And what did it get them? They got raped. They got attacked. A message for people in the global South from, a spook who is an American. I'm an American patriot, but by God, don't trust my country. We're dangerous. We are, we're like an angry cobra, and you don't want to mess with us. You can't trust us. Our word is not honored. It's not a bond. We lie repeatedly, and the casualties of that. Go ask the Hmong who fought with the United States against the North Vietnamese. Go ask the Cambodian people. Go ask the Vietnamese people. Go ask the Syrians, the Libyans. the Iraqis, the Afghanis, the Panamanians. We go down the list. It's a long, horrific list, and it's not one where people are praising the United States for its goodness. So, Iran trusted the West and suffered, some significant losses because of it. The start of that operation included, I believe, U.S. cyber command that carried out with Israel cyber attacks in Iran to disable the internet, disable the network that controlled the air defense system, and it was effective. Now, my understanding is the Israelis were anticipating this would last like 5 days, and they felt that had given plenty of time to wipe out Iran. But the Iranian technicians, with great assistance from Russia, according to Pepe Escobar, they got it back up and running within 8 to 10 hours. And then Iran struck back. And so for the past 10 days, they have been hitting Israel in a way that Israel has never been hit. And the Israeli censors have clamped down on it. They've tried to keep the information down, pretend, nothing's going on, everything's great here in Israel. Except the Iranians knocked out Haifa port, leaving only Ashdod, and they then subsequently hit Ashdod. They knocked out their only oil refinery. They've been knocking out power grids. They've been attacking key military installations, key military airfields. They shut down Ben Gurion Airport. And most importantly, they shredded Israel's air defense. Now, what we witnessed here was both Iran and Israel. Their air defense systems on both sides suck. Iran, though, is not going to have that problem much longer. I believe they've now finally agreed, let Russia come in and help. Let Russia come in and put its system in. Because once they have that system in, Israel and the United States will be very hard-pressed to attack it and survive. So then we got the end. This is Kabuki theater. That so the United States obliterates, we wiped it out, all of the 3 nuclear sites in Iran. So we were told. Except what we also then discovered was like 2 days before that happens, the Iranians are taking all the enriched uranium out in trucks, driving off to go hide it somewhere else. So they essentially abandoned those facilities, left it open for the U.S. to attack, and the U.S., blew up a bunch of dirt. And that was followed then within 12 hours by Iran launching attacks on the Al Udeid Air Force Base, except it was also pre-scripted. So that's why I say, this is Kabuki theater. This is a highly stylized script. The United States gets a strike, and Trump said, man, look at the power of America. We wiped them out. And then Iran gets to retaliate and say, we showed those Americans, didn't we? But again, both sides are sort of blowing up sand, killing sand spiders. And then it was shortly after that, and while this is all going on, Rakchi, the foreign minister of Iran, is meeting with Vladimir Putin, delivering to Putin a private letter sent from the Ayatollah Khamenei. No telling what was in it. Could be that Khamenei was saying, hey, Mr. President, we're going to go ahead and build a nuke now because we trusted the West and all of our trust has been betrayed. Or you'd say, look, we would like to accept your offer of the Mutual Defense Pact. Please come help. I think it was one of those two. I don't think it was, hey, take your offer of help and shove it. No, not that at all. So then the Trump announces, ceasefire, I bring peace. Donald Trump is like the arsonist. He's the guy that set fire to the mosque and then takes credit for, I put out the fire. He started the damn fire. So it announces a ceasefire, and there's a last flurry of activity. Israel launches some bomb strikes inside Iran, but Iran launches some significant missile strikes. And really, just a reminder that they can keep this up all day. And Iran's going to run out of missiles. After that Israel launched one more strike inside Iran. To my knowledge, Iran has not yet retaliated. They may not. But what was interesting is Trump came out and used some very obscene, harsh language about Israel. He said, I don't know if we can use the word on your channel, but it begins with an F, it ends with a K, and there's a UC in between. They don't know what they're doing. The American people have never heard an American president yell at the Israelis like that, because usually the Americans are, performing the art of fellatio on the Israelis. But here's Trump lighting off on them. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's sort of the state of play where we're at now. That Iran suffered some damage at the hand of the Israelis, some significant damage, but I think Iran overall prevailed in this because now it's in a stronger position both with Russia, with China, and it's got support of the global South in a way that it didn't have 3 weeks ago, I would argue.
Before moving on, actually, I would like my audience to actually go to your piece which you have written, U.S. and Israel versus Iran, the Kabuki theater, which you described and summarized the events which had happened in the last couple of weeks. It's a great piece. I really appreciate my audience to go and read it. But moving to Pakistan, Larry, General Asim Munir, the de facto head of Pakistani state, he was in Washington last week or so, and he has extensive meeting with the U.S. administration, and then he had met Donald Trump also. So I would like to have your view on it, what was actually discussed in those meetings. And secondly, I would like to have your comment, because there have been media reports that Pakistan would help Iran and Turkey nuclear assistance if there is a conflict between Israel and Iran. Just want to give my point of view, Larry. I have grown up in this country. Whatever you want to call Pakistani security establishment, you might call them greedy, you might call them corrupt. You can debate about it. But one thing I know, they're not stupid, because giving off nuclear assets to Iran or Israel would make Pakistani military a pariah state, and I think they won't afford this kind of hostility with the West right now. So, what's your take on these two issues with Pakistan, Larry?
Well, actually, I was going to ask you. So, for example, Iran and Pakistan do have a natural relationship, a degree of cooperation in dealing with the problem of the Baluchis, correct? Because
to some extent, yes, correct. To some extent, it's correct. But there is a hostility between Iran and Pakistan. There is a hostility due to the relationship, the ethnic mix, and the religious differences. Pakistan is predominantly a Sunni state, as you know, whereas Iran is predominantly a Shia state. So there is a kind of hostility with that. And secondly, there never has been a very brotherly relationship between Iran and Pakistan for various reasons. For instance, there has been a understanding that Iran would provide Pakistan gas, but due to pressure from the West, Pakistan hasn't been able to buy the Iranian gas, which would be a natural conduit for energy-starved country like Pakistan. But they have never got that because of the pressure. So there's always been a kind of hostility. So in my opinion, I personally don't feel it would be very easy for Pakistani establishment to provide nuclear assistance to Iran. So I would like your thought on it, because you had a different perspective in looking at this problem.
Well, no, I start from the premise that Pakistan officials, both the intelligence and military communities in particular, they are going to pursue first and foremost what is in the interest of Pakistan. They have been played in the past by both the West, by both the United States and Brits. But I've always found, I was teaching, oh, good Lord, 20 years ago, the Senior Crisis Management Seminar for State Department. And so when the Pakistani delegation would show up, and it was usually comprised of senior police, diplomatic personnel, but no military. I was always impressed with the fact that your average Pakistani spoke better English than your average American. Okay, so a level of high intelligence. But Pakistan has also pursued sort of its own intelligence objectives. The I don't know if you're familiar with the Awan family. They were contractors to the U.S. House of Representatives and the Democratic National Committee, controlling the servers. Now, I believe, and I had a friend that did some investigation for me in Pakistan, that they were ISI assets, and that kudos to the ISI that they're an excellent intelligence service. But I also believe that ISI was probably the one implicated in the death of Seth Rich, the DNC staffer who leaked the information to WikiLeaks, because I think ISI feared correctly that this could possibly expose Pakistan's hand in that event. So my only point is, Pakistan has been pursuing its own agendas at times independent of the United States. But the U.S. will come to Pakistan and ask the Pakistanis help. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they had also enlisted Pakistani help in trying to infiltrate personnel into Iran to kill or identify Iranian scientists. So I thought Pakistan's verbal support of Iran was important. I think it was more tactical than actually substantive. But this is we're living. You're growing up. You're younger than I am. You're probably the age of my son, I suspect. And you're going through. You're watching a transformation of the world that is going to really shape the future. The era of the United States control and domination, it's coming to an end. And that doesn't mean it necessarily ends peacefully. The United States is going to struggle, fight, like a drowning passenger on the Titanic, flaying about, and we'll try to drag others down with us. But our rule is coming to an end. And what we've seen now exposed is actually the weakness of America's military. It's limited what it can do. And that was particularly illustrated by, here's Iran that's been building missiles for 30 years, storing them underground. So Western intelligence really doesn't have a clue how many they have. And so they fire a ballistic missile. Let's say it costs $500,000 or it costs $1 million. Let's do $1 million. Every ballistic missile that Iran fired at Israel forced the Israelis to shoot off an Arrow 2 or an Arrow 3 missile. Those each cost $3 to $4 million. And they got to fire 2 for every 1 missile at least. And we saw in some cases they fired 10 to 12. Well, just do the math. You got $1 million missile coming in, and you got $6 to $10 million going up. They can't sustain that. Or the United States has the Theater High Altitude Air Defense System, THAAD. Those missiles go for the cool sum of $12.9 million, $13 million apiece. Again, it is the defense systems are so much more expensive, but here's the other problem. Israel, of those Arrow missiles, so it's shooting off 2 to 10 at a time, only produces about 50 a year maximum is the estimate. Just do the math. They'd run out in a week. And that's what they were facing, the fact that they were likely going to run out of air defense missiles, which is why there was such insistence to get the ceasefire in place, because without that ceasefire, Iran would have decimated Israel. I know Iran's got its own reasons for making the deal. If I was in the Iranian general staff, I would say, no deal. Let's petition Russia and China to get air defense systems in here as quickly as possible. Let's get their support, their help to stop what the Israelis are doing to us. And let's eliminate the Israeli military and intelligence network. Let's eliminate it. I think they could have done that, so they may live to regret not doing that.
Very, just a big canvas issue. I've been listening to you extensively for the last couple of weeks, and you are probably the only person in the so-called, we call it alternative media, in making this argument that Iran is just a kind of a chess piece. The target is Russia and China.
Yeah.
My, I mean, the counterbalance to that question is that in some way, US entangling themselves in Middle East would help release the pressure in the Ukrainian front and in the Far Eastern front in China. So do you think it suits Russia and China that Iran actually gets entangled with the US in the Middle East, or do you think it's in US interest to actually destroy Iran right now?
Oh no, it's in U.S. interest to destroy Iran. They got to have somebody in Iran that's obedient to the United States, because look at what in the month that preceded this attack by Israel. So actually, 3 months prior to that, Iran and Russia had signed that security cooperation agreement. Critical component of that is that north-south transportation corridor. Then, like 2 weeks before the June 13th, 1st of June, China completed its first trans-Asia train delivery that went from China across through Kazakhstan, I believe, and then wound up in Iran. So what you've got here is China trying to secure as well its access to oil. And so by virtue of its relationship with Iran and Russia, those are two of the biggest oil producers in the world. So China is actually getting a guarantee of future supply. Note, I had predicted, despite people claiming, oh, Iran's going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. I said, no, they're not. Because 80% of the oil that comes out of there, based what research I did, goes to Asia. If Iran cuts off Asia's supply of access to oil, they're hurting Asia. And that's not going to make them, improve their relations with the Asians. It's just the opposite. I said, no, they're not going to do that. And they didn't. From China and Russia, they are moving forward quickly in consolidating the power of BRICS, creating an alternative economic system. Now, up to this point, to my knowledge, Pakistan has sort of stayed out of BRICS, is keeping it at arm's length. I think that's going to change. Because, as you pointed out, Pakistanis aren't stupid people. They're going to act in their self-interest, ask for what's best. And, Pakistan, unfortunately, it's been a victim of U.S. imperialism now for 45 years. I put in that the Russian move into Afghanistan in 1979, 1980 was precipitated in large measure because of the U.S. funding of radical Islamic groups in order to try to destabilize Afghanistan as a way to weaken Russia or the then Soviet Union. And, Pakistan became sort of the aircraft carrier for the CIA, where operations were mounted. But, Pakistan also had to suffer the problems that come with enormous refugee populations that flooded in the borders. With this advent of this war, when Russia launched the special military operation and the West moved quickly to try to crush the Russian economy, Russia and China then came together in a way they never had before. And it was solidified in the meeting. It was at February of 2023 between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping in Moscow, and where they were sort of referred to each other as brothers. Now, Putin is a Christian. Xi is, he's sort of an old style Communist Party political guy, but yet they made common cause, recognized the United States is trying to kill us and everything that we stand for. And so to that end, they've then accelerated the development of BRICS. Iran joined BRICS. Brazil's been sort of, shaky, but what was interesting is in response to the Israeli and then U.S. attacks, Brazil condemned those. So Brazil sided with Russia and China, along with India and South Africa. We've now seen progress. It's called the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, CIPS, SIPS. That's an alternative to SWIFT. And what we've seen now is that the financial transactions going through SIPS are exceeding those through SWIFT. SWIFT is basically a European creation. It's based in Belgium, I believe, and it's like a buggy whip. It's old style. It's ancient technology, whereas SIPS is using modern digital technology, blockchain technology. It's fast. You can do it from your smartphone. So what's taking place is this alternative to Western money is being set up. But there's the threat. The West is going to fight furiously to try to retain that power.
Larry, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, whenever I talk to you.